get a lot of people who are fans of the show as they grow up, and then they literally try to get into. They're like, oh, well, I'd love to have a cameo. I mean, did any of you do that? I mean, you grew up watching Doctor Who. Did you think, I'm an actor now, I'd love to be in that?
I was exceedingly lucky, really, in as much as that I was at drama school with a quite well-known Doctor Who director called Graham Harper. You know Graham Harper?
Oh yeah,
oh, morning actually. And Graham and I were at drama school together, and Graham was an actor before he decided to change side and go behind the camera. And we'd lost contact for a while. And I saw him, I'm not sure at a party or something, I can't exactly remember where. And I said, oh hi Greg, great to see you mate, what are you doing? He said, I'm directing Doctor Who. Oh, he said, is anything in it for me? He said, no. I said, okay mate, I'll just get to inquire, seeing as you're directing and I'm an actor. And then he called me a couple of days later. He said, right, he said, Cole, he said, I've got a part for you. How would you like to play the mutant in the revelation of the Daleks? And I said, yeah, I'll do it, Greg, thanks a lot mate, that's lovely. And he called me a few days later and said, no, I'm going to give you the part of Lilt, which was one of the sort of running characters for the two stories. And so in a way, that was my introduction. I didn't know about Doctor Who simply because I knew Fraser Hines. I've known Fraser for some 50 years now. But and I knew that he was doing it, but I never actually thought about it actually. But then I just saw Graham, he was doing it. I thought, well, have a go, here we go, and that's it. That's how I started.
Well, when it got revamped, I was obviously very, very excited, like I said. But then I had an audition for Doctor Who before Torchwood. It was for the secretary to the mayor, or something like that. I can't remember. It was auditioning down in Cardiff, but I got the part. But I couldn't do it because I'd already contracted to do a Beethoven story about Beethoven's nephew, and I was really gutted because I would have preferred to have done the small part in Doctor Who, and that was sort of my tease, if you were, into being in the show. So when Torchwood was announced that they were making that, I read an article in the paper. I thought, I really want to get in this show now. I want to go home. I want to work in Cardiff, and I got an audition, and I did. So that was sort of my entrance into the 2000 Doctor Who.
Out of interest, what was the part you were going for? Because it wasn't going to be like Captain Jack's lover.
No.
Because it wasn't initially.
No. You mean for Torchwood or for
Torchwood? What was Yanto's part?
He was the driver. He was the driver for the team. He was a bit like Alfred to Jack Harkness's Batman. But what they didn't ask me at the audition is whether I could drive or not. The character was called Idris Hopper. And the script they sent me, he had 2 lines in the whole thing, a bit flirtation, but some line from Captain Jack about him looking good in a suit, and then he'd just be the side of the driver, just driving them everywhere. And when I got the part, Russell changed my name to Yanto Jones because that was the name of a character I played in another one of Russell's projects, which got cut from the televised version. And they decided that because I couldn't drive, then I would be a better tea boy or coffee boy. And I think it turned out better than the original idea. So I was thankful for that.
I'm going to let you into a little secret now that not many people know about, and you're very honoured and should be extremely excited about what I'm about to say, which is this. Is that when they were looking for a new doctor after David Tennant, it got down to 2 people. One was Matt Smith, and the other, surprisingly, was Ian McNeice. Now, if you believe that, you believe anything, won't you? No, I have to say that when by the time I got into Doctor Who, into the show, to actually be in it, it had reached fever pitch because David Tennant had taken it into the stratosphere, and so it was like a hugely hot show to be in, and so to be asked to be in it by the time Matt was doing it was fantastic, because they had the choice, they had the cream of the crop. I mean, they could choose anybody to be in it, and they literally did. So very good actors were being asked to be in it. So it's actually, the kudos of being in Doctor Who back in Britain is enormous. So there you go.
Well, personally, I don't think anybody else could have played Winston quite like you.
I mean, what a suck up is that? What do you think about that?
See, I went from the worst moderator to the best.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going out together later on if you want to hear about it.
And we're actually having a panel about Doctor Who in the 2000s. At the beginning of this panel, I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought we were going to end up talking about something completely random, but we're actually having a proper panel. So, thanks for starting that off.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
See, and you touched on a very valid point here, that David Tennant did take the role of the Doctor and own it, right? I mean, he owned that role, you know, and he basically brought, I think personally Tennant brought Doctor Who to America for a lot of the newer fans, anyway, certainly in the 2000s, because, I mean, it just rocketed, and you guys were in Tennant stories, I mean, not you, I'm sorry.
Don't worry, that's all right.
He was still the best Winston. But, you know, and from that, I mean, you were there, I mean, you were like the peak of it just popularity-wise, you guys were part of that. I mean, so you had big boots to fill. I mean, was the pressure on there?
I was already in Torchwood, so it was exciting for me, for the character to be sort of moved over into Doctor Who. But it was quite safe at the same time because we were in the hub. It was familiar ground. All of my scenes were there. I had one scene with David, but he was on the computer screen, which they put in afterwards. So I didn't actually do any lines with David. So I was upset about that. Apparently, he's very difficult to work with anyway.
Hang on, was that Christopher Eccleston?
No, it's David Tennant.
Oh, David Tennant.
Wait, Mr. Everson was hard to work with?
Yeah, apparently
That's what I'd heard before, but now they're saying David Tennant was tricky to work with.
he's very, very
No, I
tricky.
expected Al to work with, I know that. But I didn't know David was tricky as well.
No,
They're all tricky, they're all tricky.
all the doctors, have you met Colin Baker?
Yeah.
Oh, he's the worst.
He's the worst, huh?
I have nothing to do with this panel.
That's exactly what you've been doing, nothing to do with it.
I'm just thinking, who else could have played Winston?
A lot of people, darling, a lot of people. But not as well.
My money's on Christopher Eccleston.
Isn't he quite difficult to work with?
Yeah, well, I don't know, 'cause I never worked with him. I found out you were saying you never actually had any lines with David.
No, but I saw him a lot because we were filming him up a boat and the sets were next to each other, so I saw him all the time. And we got him, you know, he was such a lovely man. He's absolutely not difficult to work with whatsoever. That was a huge part of the reason I was upset that I didn't get to do any lines. But
Because I never worked with neither. In my episode, he never actually got to do any lines with David or did he? I saw him go around in the TQ and things like that, but none of my lines were with David or Billy. It's strange, isn't it?
Aww.
It is a great shame. Funny, I tell you how I got that part. I bumped into Grand Harper 28 years after I bumped into him for the first time, and I said, "What do you do?" He said, "Doctor Who, anything in it for me?" "No." And he phoned me up and said, "You need to audition, but there is a part." And I auditioned and I fortunately got it.